Those comments by the Mayor of Calais came as the government was forced to defend another part of its immigration policy, a decision not to support future search and rescue operations to prevent refugees drowning in the Mediterranean. I've been joined by Maurice Wren, Chief Executive of the British Refugee Council. Good evening, to you, Maurice. Let's just look at the scale of this problem and the sort of numbers that we are talking about. In 2013, there were 60,000 refugees reaching Europe. But so far, in 2014, we've seen more than double that number, 130,000. Why the surge?
Two factors at play, I think. One is the situation in the Middle East region has deteriorated significantly over the last year. And we're seeing...
Yes, particularly Syria.
Indeed, Syria and Iraq. And we're seeing a phenomenon of not only primary flight from those countries, but secondary flight because they're displacing populations in the neighbouring countries. And the pressure on the UN High Commission for Refugees to maintain standards of support for people for whom they're trying to find durable solutions.
Yeah, but I mean, let's have a look. All of these countries have large numbers of migrants making their way towards Europe, don't they?
Yes, and they're like a league table of trouble spots around the world in terms of wars and civil conflict and domestic repression. The other factor that's driving the numbers up is that it's a very lucrative business.
Yeah,
and,
well, we'll talk about that in just a moment. They're heading mainly via Italy, aren't they?
In the main, because it's the nearest landfall site. Lampedusa is much closer to the North African coast. Sicily, obviously, is a dropping-off point.
And if you look at this map here, the larger the arrow, that's the greater the number of migrants travelling from there. So we can see Eritrea here. Let's take a look at the route that they are taking via Italy, as we were just discussing. But, I mean, when you look at these circuitous routes they're taking, this is not straightforward. This is not an easy journey for these migrants, is it?
It's not an easy journey simply for the scale of the journeys, and you can see they're almost cross-continental. But the nature of the journeys, these people are commodities to the smugglers. They're of no human value, other than the fact that they will get payment if they deliver them to Libya.
So they travel to the coast on the Mediterranean, and they're likely to get picked up by people traffickers.
If they've got the financial resources to buy themselves onto a boat.
Yeah, and as you were saying, it's incredibly lucrative. £4 billion a year that business is worth. I mean, that's what we know about, isn't it?
No, and we welcome the UK government's statement today that that's an area that they are seeking to clamp down on. Tragically, there are no legal or safe routes of entry into Europe if you are seeking refugee protection. So people don't have an alternative.
Yeah.
If they are going to obtain safety, they've got to use these routes.
Yeah, and as you say, it isn't safe taking these routes. 2,200 lives lost since June. I mean, that's in 4 months.
And those are the bodies that the Italians have picked up. We understand that there are high fatality rates within the territorial waters of Libya and Algeria, of boats that never get beyond 20 or 30 miles from the coast.
And just remind us of the most recent and particularly famous incident, I suppose, last October at Lampedusa. What happened there?
Well, there was one boat in particular where 300 people perished within sight of the land at Lampedusa. That prompted the Italian government to up its commitment to search and rescue, and they developed what they call the Mare Nostrum programme that they are now talking about ending. Yeah,
and the majority of those who died at Lampedusa were travelling from Eritrea, as we were talking about, a particularly problematic area. And, as you were saying, that prompted the Mare Nostrum operation.
It's a bitter irony, if not an absurdity, about this whole situation, that a lot of those people on the boats, particularly those coming from Eritrea, from Syria, from Sudan, if they land safely on the European mainland and claim political asylum, most of them will be given political asylum in Europe.
So they want to get across, but the risks are great, and without this operation...
Because we have no other... We're not allowing them. We've pulled up the drawbridge of Fortress Europe, and it's completely unsustainable. We've got a global refugee crisis unfolding. We need a regional humanitarian solution.
OK, Maurice Wren, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.